What happens when a disgraced cop tries to intimidate the wrong woman? She wasn't just any driver, she was a decorated U.S. Army colonel. But out of uniform, on an empty highway, no one was supposed to protect her. No backup, no witnesses, just him, his badge, and his belief that he could get away with anything. Until she reminded him, real power doesn't come from fear, it comes from knowing when and how to fight back. The sun was settling low, casting long gold streaks across the asphalt as Colonel Maya Thompson guided her SUV along a near-empty highway in Southern Virginia. Civilian clothes wrapped her like camouflage. A navy blazer, white blouse, neatly pressed slacks. Her uniform, freshly dry-cleaned, lay folded inside a garment bag on the passenger seat. The ribbons, the insignia, the decades of earned respect, all tucked away and out of sight. She wasn't thinking about power or rank. She was thinking about getting home. A ceremony for veterans had just ended. It had gone long. She was tired. Then came the lights, red and blue, flashing fast, coming up behind her like a threat. Maya checked her speed, well under the limit, lane, centered, driving, smooth. There was no reason for this, none, but still, she signaled, slowed, and pulled onto the gravel shoulder. Years of military training kicked in, calm, control, no sudden movements, no assumptions. She waited. The officer approached slowly, boots crunching over the loose stones, broad shoulders, young, tense. His hand hovered near the holster like instinct. He didn't greet her, didn't say hello, just barked it. License and registration. Maya moved deliberately, slowly reaching into her purse for her ID. "Yes, officer," she said. Her voice was even, polite. "Is there a problem?" He didn't answer the question, didn't glance at her license for more than half a second before scanning her face again. Then her hands. "Step out of the vehicle." Maya blinked. "Excuse me?" "Out of the car," he repeated. Slower, like she hadn't understood, like she might be a threat. She took a breath. "May I ask why I've been stopped? I wasn't speeding, I wasn't swerving, you haven't stated." He cut her off with a half-smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Suspicious activity. Step out now." There it was, the moment where the world split in two. Where compliance became expectation, and dignity became risk. Maya knew this road. She had walked it in a dozen countries, under different flags and foreign tensions. But here, on a quiet stretch of American highway, it still stung. She stepped out, hands visible, posture calm, no threat. He walked around her SUV slowly, peering through the windows, trying to find something, anything. His smirk widened when he asked, "Where are you headed?" "Home," she answered. "I just left a military event." He raised an eyebrow. "Military, huh?" That chuckle. "What exactly are you claiming to be?" She met his eyes directly. "Colonel Maya Thompson, United States Army." He paused, a beat, then a scoff. "Really, Colonel?" He dragged the word out like it was a joke. "You sure about that?" "Yes," she replied, her voice steady. "Where's your military ID?" Maya's hand moved to her blazer pocket, empty, other side, nothing. She frowned, not visibly, just inwardly. Where was it? Then she remembered, she had left it in her uniform jacket, folded neatly, locked at the base. She always carried it, always, but tonight she hadn't needed it, until now. She looked up. "I don't have it with me, it's in my locker." "How convenient." His smirk deepened. He held her driver's license between two fingers like it was contaminated. "No veteran status either. That's funny. You'd think a colonel would have something to prove it." She didn't react, didn't flinch. But inside something sharp twisted. He wasn't asking for proof. He wasn't trying to verify her story. He was waiting for her to break. "I don't need to prove anything to you," she said quietly. "But if you'd like to confirm my identity, your department should have access to the DoD database." He tilted his head. "Oh, I could run it, but I prefer the old-school way." Then he stepped toward her car. Maya's body moved before her thoughts did. "You don't have probable cause to search my vehicle. Suspicious behavior is enough," he shot back. "And I gotta say, you're acting real nervous, ma'am." The way he said it, ma'am, dripped with disdain. Not respect. Not law. Control. Maya knew that tone. She'd heard it from insurgents and bad commanders, from men who thought authority was something you could force into obedience. She had faced bullets in foreign deserts with less arrogance than what stood before her now. She didn't move. She didn't beg. She watched him reach for her door, and she said nothing. Because Maya Thompson knew how to fight, but more importantly, she knew exactly when not to. Officer Rick Marlowe opened the driver's side door without hesitation. Maya didn't move. Her jaw clenched, but her body stayed still. She knew what he was doing, looking for something, anything that could justify the stop. It wasn't about protocol. It was about ego, power, control. She had seen men like him before, in war zones, in negotiation rooms, in situations far more dangerous than this. But here in her own country, on a quiet American highway, the threat took a different shape. It wore a badge and a smirk. Marlowe leaned inside, rifling through the center console, then popped the glove compartment. Papers spilled out. Insurance, receipts, an old granola bar wrapper. None of it suspicious, all of it treated like evidence. "You got yourself a little operation running out of this car, Colonel?" he muttered. She didn't answer, didn't even blink. Marlowe moved to the passenger side. He opened her purse, dumped its contents onto the seat with zero care. Lipstick, notepad, a worn coin with an Afghan inscription, one she carried as a silent reminder of those she lost. It clattered across the leather and rolled toward the floor. He kicked it aside. "Careful," Maya said softly. "That's not replaceable." Marlowe glanced at her, lips curling. "You should have been more careful with your story." Then he reached for the back seat. That's when Maya moved, just slightly. Not toward him, not in anger. She reached into her pocket, slowly and deliberately, and pulled out her phone. She tapped one contact, didn't say much. "This is Colonel Thompson," she said quietly. "I need a favor, right now." Then she ended the call. Marlowe didn't notice, or if he did, he didn't care. He was too busy muttering to himself, tossing things around like he was uncovering some grand conspiracy. But the truth was, he was unraveling. Every drawer opened and found empty. Every question he asked, every dig he tried to land, fell into silence. She didn't flinch, didn't argue, didn't panic, and that made him furious. "You think this is funny?" he said, stepping back out. His voice was louder now, sharper. "No," Maya replied calmly. "I think it's illegal." He let out a humorless laugh. "Illegal? You're refusing to comply. That's resisting. I stepped out of my vehicle. I answered your questions. What I won't do is let you continue violating my rights." "You sure do talk big," he said, stepping closer. His hand hovered near his belt. Not his weapon. Not yet, his radio. "You don't look like a colonel to me." Maya didn't smile, didn't offer a rebuttal. She just looked at him, long enough and still enough to make him uneasy. "I don't have to look like anything for the law to protect me," she said. "But you, officer, you're about to cross a line you can't step back from." That was it, he snapped. "You're under arrest," Marlowe barked. "For what?" She didn't ask. She knew it didn't matter. Maya stood still, calm, her breath steady. Then came the radio click. "Dispatch, I've got a possible 10 to 29. Send backup." She felt her pulse flick, not in fear but in recognition. 1029, wanted person. He was building a case, inventing it, brick by brick, with nothing but ego and assumption. "You're making a mistake," she said. "You're damn right," he replied. "And you're the one making it." And then, just as he turned back to her SUV to continue his search, his radio crackled. "Unit 12, hold all further action. You have an urgent call coming through. Command override. Patch in now." Marlowe's expression flickered. Confusion. He stepped aside, turning the dial on his unit. "This is Officer Marlowe," he said. "Go ahead." Silence. Then, "Officer Marlowe, this is Captain Hollis. What the hell do you think you're doing?" He stiffened. "Sir, You are unlawfully detaining Colonel Maya Thompson, a decorated officer in active service. You will stand down, immediately. You will escort her to the station, and upon arrival, you will apologize. Formally. Do you understand?" Maya said nothing. She didn't have to. The weight of that voice, calm, direct, and absolutely livid, was enough. Marlowe swallowed. "Yes, sir. Report to my office the second you arrive, and pray I don't take your badge before the night is over." The radio went silent. And so did Marlowe. He turned slowly. His face burned red, not from heat, but from something worse. Humiliation. For the first time, Maya spoke without any tension in her voice. "Are you finished?" she asked. He didn't answer. Didn't look at her. He just walked stiffly back to his patrol car and opened the door. "Get in," he muttered. Maya didn't move right away. She calmly picked up the coin from her car floor, placed it in her palm, and slid it back into her pocket. Then she shut the SUV door, turned, and walked toward his vehicle with all the composure of someone who had already won. She slid into the back seat. Not as a suspect, but as the one in control. The ride to the station was silent. Officer Rick Marlowe gripped the steering wheel so tightly his knuckles turned pale. His jaw clenched so hard he felt a pulse in his teeth. In the back seat, Colonel Maya Thompson sat upright, her hands folded calmly in her lap. She wasn't restrained. She hadn't needed to be. The air between them wasn't filled with fear or panic. It was heavier than that. It was defeat, but not hers. The station came into view. Brick walls, aging windows, and a fading sign that read South County Police Precinct. As they pulled in, officers outside paused, their conversations dying as they watched the patrol car roll up. They already knew. Maya could feel it. The building itself seemed to hum with the news. Not because she was important, but because Marlowe had already crossed a line that everyone inside understood could not be uncrossed. Marlowe slammed the car into park. "Out," he muttered. She opened the door herself. No hesitation. No weakness. As she stepped out, the front desk sergeant spotted her instantly. His face shifted, not with suspicion, but recognition, respect. "She's here," he called over the intercom. His voice wasn't loud, but it carried. Within seconds, the office door swung open and Chief Warren Keller stepped out, late 50s, square jaw. Not the type who smiled often. He didn't have to. "Colonel Thompson," Keller greeted, voice clipped but respectful. Then his eyes shifted to Marlowe. "Office." Now. The entire room seemed to lean into the moment. Marlowe didn't move. For a breath too long, he hesitated, his shoulders tense, his fists at his sides, like a man preparing for a battle he already knew he couldn't win. Then he walked stiffly past Maya into the chief's office. Maya followed. The door clicked shut behind them. The blinds stayed open. The whole station could see inside. Good, let them. Chief Keller didn't sit. He didn't even motion for anyone else to. His eyes pinned Marlowe to the spot like a knife. "I want to know what made you think detaining a U.S. Army colonel was a good idea." Marlowe's nostrils flared. His fists clenched tighter. She didn't have ID. No veteran status on her license. She refused to comply. "Stop," Keller barked. His voice wasn't loud, but it cut. "You know how you should have verified her identity?" Keller asked, stepping forward. "By following protocol, running her name, you didn't." She refused. "You escalated," Keller corrected. "You harassed. You illegally searched her vehicle, and you ignored every ounce of your training because you didn't like how she answered you." Maya remained still, silent, watching. "You embarrassed this department," Keller continued. "The Pentagon has already called me twice. You've made this entire office look like a breeding ground for amateurs and abusers." Marlowe's jaw ticked. Chief Keller turned to Maya. "Colonel Thompson, on behalf of this department, I formally apologize. This should never have happened." Maya inclined her head, not accepting the apology, but acknowledging it. "I expect to see procedural changes, not just words." "You'll have them." Then Keller turned back to Marlowe. "Apologize, now." Marlowe's face twisted. "I apologize," he ground out. "For what?" Maya asked calmly. He hated her in that moment. She could see it in the tight pull of his eyes, the way his lip curled. But he had no choice. "For my actions today," he forced out. "I was wrong. It won't happen again." The words sounded like poison on his tongue, but words didn't matter. Not really. Intent did. Chief Keller nodded sharply. "You're suspended, effective immediately, pending full review, and if I had my way, you wouldn't wear that badge again." Marlowe flinched. That was the real blow. Maya stood smoothly, adjusting her blazer. "I appreciate your cooperation, Chief." As she turned to leave, Marlowe's whisper cut the air, low, bitter. "You set me up." She stopped, turned slightly. "I didn't have to." His face burned red again, his hands curled into fists at his sides, but there was nothing left to do, nothing he could say. She had won, or so it seemed, but Maya knew better. As she exited the office, as she passed the other officers, some offering apologetic glances, others avoiding her gaze, she felt the weight settle deeper. This wasn't over. Not for men like Marlowe. She had humiliated him in front of his peers, stripped him of power, challenged his belief that a badge could shield him from consequences. She had seen it before. In the ranks, in politics, in every space where men built their egos into fortresses. When those walls cracked, they didn't rebuild. They retaliated. And as she walked back to her SUV, the sun setting behind her, Maya understood exactly what came next. Marlowe wouldn't learn, he wouldn't reflect, he wouldn't change. He would chase control again, and she would be ready. The next morning broke cool and quiet. Colonel Maya Thompson eased into her SUV, setting her coffee in the holder and adjusting the rearview mirror. The highway stretched ahead, empty and familiar. The same route she always took. She had considered changing it, rerouting, altering her routine. But no, that would mean he'd won. And Maya Thompson didn't retreat. Not from insurgents, not from bureaucrats. Not from a disgraced cop whose ego had shattered under the weight of his own mistakes. The drive was steady. The tires hummed against the pavement, a comforting rhythm. Trees blurred past, green and gold in the early light. But then, a dark sedan merged behind her. Maya's eyes flicked to the mirror. At first, nothing alarming. Could be any commuter, any driver. But it stayed too close, too consistent. The distance closed. Her pulse remained calm. Her grip on the wheel didn't change. But her mind catalogued every detail. The car had lingered 2 vehicles back moments ago. Now it was shadowing her. Not tailgating, not passing, just following. The sedan drifted closer, too close. Maya's breath slowed. Her body eased into a readiness most people would never notice. Shoulders loose, vision widened, heart steady. And then, the sedan lunged. It wasn't an accident. It wasn't impatience. It was an attack. Maya didn't slam the brakes, didn't swerve. She let her SUV drift slightly, selling the illusion of panic, a predictable reaction. The sedan surged forward, trying to box her toward the shoulder, trying to force a mistake. Her hand flicked the turn signal, a calculated bait. The sedan accelerated. As it lunged into the gap, Maya cut the wheel sharply in the opposite direction. The attacker overcorrected, tires screeching. She caught a glimpse of the driver's face in the mirror. Officer Rick Marlowe. Out of uniform. Out of authority, out of restraint. His eyes burned with raw, unfiltered rage. Not law, not duty, just fury. He pressed closer, the sedan ramming the back of her SUV with reckless force. Maya's teeth clenched as metal crunched, but she stayed calm. Ahead, the highway curved into a more isolated stretch, trees lining the road, shadows stretching long. No witnesses, no traffic. Marlowe wanted this, had planned for it. So had she. She eased off the gas, letting the SUV slow. The sedan boxed her in until she had no choice but to stop. Both vehicles came to a halt on the desolate stretch. Marlowe threw his door open, storming out. His movements were stiff, controlled only by rage now. "You think you won?" he barked across the space. His voice echoed off the empty road. "You think humiliating me in front of everyone made you some kind of hero?" Maya didn't respond. She unbuckled her seatbelt, stepped out, and closed the door behind her. Her posture was calm, controlled, but her muscles were ready. Marlowe kept advancing. "This ends now." "No," Maya said quietly. "It ended when you broke the law. Everything after that, just your pride refusing to accept it." Marlowe's face twisted. "You think because you had a few friends pull strings because you got me suspended, you're untouchable?" "I think following the law makes me better than you," Maya replied. That hit him harder than a punch. He charged. Not like a trained fighter. Not like a man thinking clearly. Like a man unraveling. His fist swung wide, reckless. Maya sidestepped effortlessly, letting his momentum carry him past. She could have ended it right there. A single strike to the ribs, a knee to the throat. She'd taught those moves to soldiers for years, but this wasn't about breaking him. It was about making sure he understood. Marlowe stumbled, turned, swung again, wild, desperate. Maya ducked, her elbow snapping into his ribs, controlled, calculated. Enough to wind him, not disable him. "You're done," she said. "You don't get to decide that," he roared. He lunged again, this time aiming low, trying to tackle her. Maya pivoted, hooking her foot behind his leg, using his own weight against him. He crashed to the ground, hard. The breath exploded from his lungs. But he pushed up, face red with humiliation, not pain. His pride was still fighting, even if his body was failing. "I'm not done," he spat. Maya exhaled. "You should be." Marlowe charged once more. Maya caught his wrist mid-swing, twisted it sharply, forcing him to his knees. "Stop," she warned. He snarled. "You think you're better than me? Just because you wore a uniform?" "No," she said, "because I learned when to walk away." But Marlowe didn't know how to walk away. His free hand reached for her, his body tense. Maya shifted, yanked him forward, and swept his leg. He hit the ground again, harder this time. His breath came ragged, his fists curled weakly, but the rage in his eyes refused to die. "You could have walked away," Maya said softly, "but you didn't." Marlowe growled, a guttural sound, and lunged a final time. Maya sidestepped, hooked her arm around his neck, locked the choke. His hands clawed at her arm. His breath grew shallow. His body trembled. "This is over," she said. "Stop." He didn't, even as the fight drained from him, even as his legs gave out, even as panic replaced anger in his eyes. Finally, when his struggles weakened into desperate gasps, he whispered, "Please." Maya held the choke a second longer, not out of cruelty, but to make sure he understood. Then she released him. He crumpled to the pavement, coughing, broken. Maya stepped back, rolling her shoulders. Her ribs ached where he'd landed a hit. Her jaw was tight. But the fight was finished. "I warned you," she said. Marlowe didn't answer. He couldn't. The distant wail of sirens began to rise over the horizon. Maya pulled out her phone and calmly dialed. "This is Colonel Thompson," she said. "I need officers dispatched to my location. I'm reporting an assault and attempted vehicular homicide. The suspect is restrained and non-compliant." Marlowe flinched at the word suspect. But he didn't argue. Not anymore. The courtroom was full. Reporters, officers, members of the military, strangers, everyone had come to see how it would end, whether the system would finally do what it so often failed to do, hold one of its own accountable. Colonel Maya Thompson sat near the front. Her uniform was crisp, her posture straight. She didn't fidget, didn't smile. She wasn't here for revenge. She was here for truth. At the defense table sat Rick Marlowe. No badge, no uniform. Just a man stripped of everything he had once used to shield himself. His eyes burned, not with defiance, but something worse. Fear. The prosecutor stood. "We will prove that Officer Marlowe did not simply make a mistake. He made a decision. Repeatedly. And when challenged, he responded not with professionalism, but with escalation. Violence. And ultimately, an attempted assault with a deadly weapon." The room stayed still. No one moved. No one needed to. The facts spoke louder than any dramatics ever could. Dashcam footage played. Maya's SUV calm and steady, Marlowe's sedan swerving, ramming, forcing. The body cam, brief, disjointed, captured his tone, his dismissiveness, his assumption that she was lying. Then came Maya's testimony. She stepped into the witness stand with quiet grace. "I have served this country for over 20 years, she began. "I have led combat teams, I have trained peacekeepers, I have stood in rooms where life and death were separated by seconds. But nothing," she continued, voice even, "has ever prepared me for what it felt like to be treated like a criminal by someone who saw authority as entitlement." The prosecutor asked, "Why do you think he followed you that day?" "Because I didn't comply the way he wanted," Maya said. "Because I didn't shrink. Because to him, that was challenge enough." Marlowe shifted in his seat. The defense tried to cast doubt, to paint the situation as miscommunication, claimed Marlowe had suffered from stress and professional pressure. But the jury didn't blink. They had seen the footage, heard the tapes, watched the rage in Marlowe's face as he chased her down that road. The truth was too sharp to dull. When the final verdict came, the judge didn't waste time. "Mr. Marlowe," he said, voice heavy with finality, "you are hereby convicted of aggravated assault, attempted vehicular homicide, and abuse of authority under the color of law. You are sentenced to 15 years in federal prison. No parole for the first 10, no badge, no weapon, no second chance." Marlowe's head dropped. For the first time, he looked small, not like a man, but like a shadow of one. And Maya? She simply closed her eyes for a brief moment, letting it land, letting the system for once do what it was meant to do. The media didn't stop calling. Articles praised her restraint, her strength. Some tried to politicize it. Others tried to twist it, but Maya didn't speak to them. She didn't go on TV, didn't write a book, didn't stand behind microphones. She went back to work. Back to duty. Duty. Back to life. Because that was the point. This wasn't about headlines. It was about walking forward without the weight of someone else's violence trying to define you. Maya didn't win because she fought harder. She won because she refused to let injustice shape her silence. And somewhere in a prison cell, Rick Marlowe sat with nothing. No badge, no allies, no illusions. He had thought power came from fear. But in the end, the most powerful person in that courtroom was the woman who never raised her voice. If you've ever been underestimated because of who you are, press 1. If you believe that quiet courage can still overcome abusive power, press 2. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss a story where justice speaks louder than fear.